Hey guys, welcome back to ArtosisCasts. Today we have Flash playing on the new ASL/SSL map known as Deja. And in the top left, he'll be going up against HyuN, a very strong Zerg player who did not make it into ASL this season, but, you know, is always very highly ranked on the ladder and generally always very, very active. So, looking forward to this. Thinking it's going to be a pretty cool game. I'm just excited to see what Flash is going to do on some of these newer maps, right? That's actually, I'm almost more excited than the pros playing in ASL. He actually, you know, Flash is having an impact on the scene. We've already kind of gone over it, and we've seen how a lot of players have been altering their play, mimicking a lot of the things that he's done. Something that people may or may not remember is that occasionally Flash actually gives builds to Terran players in ASL. And when he does, you can kind of tell. There was this one series where Barracks played out of his mind a couple years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I've never seen a build like this. This is so crazy strong. What the hell? How is Barracks doing this? And then he gave it the interview at the end. He's like, oh, Flash gave me that build. And it was like, oh, okay. So things like that absolutely do occur. I don't know if it's happened yet. I haven't actually checked into that. But yeah, even his ladder games are having a big reverberation throughout the scene. Now, taking a look at this so far, Flash is going for a command center first here. And, you know, that's not something I was super expecting, although we have seen him go for a fair amount of command center first plays. So, yeah, just want to kind of throw that out there that, like, I talked about this more in the Terran vs. Protoss games, where, like, if there's too many gasless expands, you got to go for a Zealot, and it kind of forces things back. If there's too many Wallens, you got to go for a 4-pool. This is a similar type of thing, right? If you go for a 9-pool or less against this, it's pretty much a free win. So if he does this too much, definitely you need to see some of those pool first builds coming into it. Taking a look up at HyuN's base here. Just looks pretty standard overall, going for what looks to be like a 2-hatchery layer build. And of course, Flash going to go ahead and wall in. The Overlord sees what's going on, and I'm sure he's not too happy about that. By the way, the depot I think is actually poorly placed because the ComSat will make a full wall here, and that's really annoying. So fairly certain this should have been forward one, but maybe there's room for a bunker here. It could be something like that, like an anti-lurker type play. Having room for a bunker, because these tiles are not going to be buildable. When you see little specks like this, that's not buildable. That is a nice thing about Brood War, is you can actually look at tiles and pretty much know, right? Like, this is all unbuildable. This is like something that a lot of these maps do to make sure there's a hole in your wall. Anyways, we'll see about that, if there is something special there that he wanted to do. Anyways, a very fast gas coming down. And, like, we don't see the eBay yet, so I actually think this is probably going to be like a mech build. Could be a Valkyrie rush or something like that, but definitely a fast factory. A drone holding position here up on the ramp for HyuN, who is going to chase this SCV out and not show what he's up to. Third hatch in the main base, so that's actually a pretty reasonable thing to want to hide. So Flash doesn't know if that third base is going to be somewhere else on the map or not. Might have to spend some additional resources trying to scout that out a little bit. Zergling speed on the way here for HyuN. And of course, there's that factory. But will we be seeing a secondary factory here? Yeah, not sure what we're going to be looking at, because he's built up a lot of gas. So it's obviously going to be a starport. It could theoretically be 2 starports. Some people have messed around with 2 starport Wraith, and if you go command center first, I think it's actually quick enough to hold on against the 2-hatch Muta. So that might be it. Notice how a secondary SCV comes up. So that's going to be a second factory and a third factory. Okay, now we understand what's going on. So what this is this is just highly optimized, right? To put this into perspective, okay, the add-on takes half the amount of time as an armory or a factory, okay? The factory and the armory take the same amount of time. He doesn't want to build vultures, so there's no sense in starting additional factories until the armory starts. So what he did was he banked up money while building 1, added 2 more in the armory at the same time. So all of that will finish and you can start Goliath at the same time. And he slowed this add-on because you can't even start Goliath range until the armory's done. So he didn't need to buy that. This is the type of optimization that you look at and you're like, of course. But so few people do, right? Flash is one of the guys who's like, yes, this is literally exactly planned because I want my build to be perfect. And so look at that. 3 Goliaths and range all started in sync with the Mutalisks. This is not a build you could do with anything other than a command center first, by the way. Really, really, really well done. Throwing down his missile turrets just in time as well. Third base going up for HyuN over here. This is going to be a fun game. This is going to be a fun one. This, I think, and look, yes, okay, the armor upgrade, it kind of gives away. I think it's going to be like pure Goliaths for a very long time. There's a chance that you get into siege tanks a little bit later, but generally the armor upgrade is going to have a greater effect. It brings Goliath armor from 1 to 2, which further reduces Zergling damage as well as glaive damage. Like it reduces Mutalisk's attack by 2, as opposed to just adding a little tiny bit of damage from you know, their other weapons. So really liking what I'm seeing here from Flash. Burrow on the way, very standard stuff nowadays against mech. You want to kind of put burrowed Zerglings all over the place because you can watch. It's not like for some sort of special move to unburrow underneath the army like you've sometimes seen in the past, but it's more to get perfect scouting of where your opponent's units are moving because you just don't get detection with this until very, very late. Can't afford a Science Fest or anything like that. Now, 5 factories going up. This is so fast for 5 factories. Of course, again, this all has to do with the fact that Flash went for a command center first. It really wouldn't work with any other build. And you can see he's like rallying Goliaths down here to kind of zone out mutas. And then as he starts pushing out, the Goliaths come to join, right? He's hitting them a little bit. He knows that by walking out here, he's forcing more units for HyuN. And, you know, that's when he wants to go ahead and reinforce. So this is like a pure Goliath mass coming out for Flash. He's already got 12. The +1 armor still on the way. +1 armor here for the mutas coming up as well. 3rd gas coming up for HyuN. Has that +1 missile attack. So he is getting ready for a switch eventually into those Hydralisks. Can't really do it quite yet. You got to be very careful about trying to tech switch because if you're trying to hit that switch, you know, before you have like the Hydralisk speed and the range and everything, if he hits with those Goliaths, you're going to be at a very weak point in the game. So a few Goliaths that did just pop out, hitting some damage onto these mutas. Of course, the mutas can take quite a few hits from Goliaths. Walking right over the Zerglings. Notice how this burrowed Zergling is telling HyuN exactly what he needs to know about the Goliath positioning. He can move perfectly with his Mutalisks here because he sees what's going on. This is a very cool game so far. HyuN gonna dive back in. A lot of Goliaths waiting for him, though. You know, between this barracks here and the Goliaths here, there really wasn't any room. Yeah, the Goliaths were standing here, so he knew the mutas didn't pass him, so that's why the Goliaths were able to stand there. Literally everything Flash does, if you just look for the reason, you will actually find it. That's a funny thing, because many pros, even ASL level pros, you look for the reason, and there's no rhyme or reason for a lot of things that they do. They just kind of do things. And that's not like an insult. The game is incredibly complex, but like watching how Flash does this, where he's like, yes, I have a perfect vision arc. So the mutas would have to fly up here and go over here and then go down to go around, which is not realistic. So he knows to keep all of his Goliaths in the natural. It's just like perfect spotting the entire time. I mean, HyuN is doing it as well with the Zerglings that are burrowed. Not that there's a lot of those right now, but like he's getting a lot of vision like that. But Flash is gaining a ton of vision himself. Now he's moving forward. He has that +1. He does have +1 attack on the way. The Goliath's still kind of roaming out in the middle of the map. The amount of Goliaths is actually getting a little bit silly. Like, let's see if we can actually figure this out, right? So there's 12. Okay, so he's got 20 there. And he's got another 10. So he's got 30 Goliaths right now with +1 armor. That is a lot of Goliaths. 5 at a time, so that is only going up at the moment. A big row of sunken colonies. Look at this. There's not a Hydra on the map. There's not one Hydra, and he's started +2 missile attacks. These two are doing a great job with their powering. Like, What a crazy looking game this is at the moment. More and more Goliaths continue to come out. The Muta's trying to buy that additional time. Hydralisk speed on the way. Don't forget, this is what I was talking about before, right? If you start making Hydras and put all your larvae and money into that before the speed, before the range, the Goliaths can actually just go kill you if you have someone macroing as well as flashes here, right? Look at this ludicrous supply that he has in Goliaths. He's trying to hit a critical mass that can just kill everything. But HyuN is waiting, right? Like, he's already got the +1. He's going to have this Hydralisk speed. He's going to have Hydralisk range here coming up next. There it is. Hydralisk range starts, and he'll start pretty soon. Now, his Goliaths actually get a lot of damage and kill 2 Mutalisks off there. So a little bit sloppy there from HyuN. HyuN, by the way, taking another base. I love the amount of sunkens he's made, but now we have the siege tank production, right? We have the academy up, so he is going to eventually get those comm sats. You know, you don't want a hold position lurker to ruin your day. Third base going up just stands his Goliaths down there. The Mutas come in, but there's just so many Goliaths, you don't really want to do a full engage. As more tanks pop out. Oh, it's only 1 tank so far. Look at that. So, like, this is a little bit of an arms race. We actually have a +2 flyer carapace started now. He's got 1/1 on them, so they are the same upgrades as the Goliaths. But starting +2, continuing forward with that, irradiate on the way, siege mode and siege tanks on the way. And there are a lot of Hydras starting to come out now. HyuN's economy is pretty insane at 54 drones on 4 bases. That's like a really good spread of the mineral gathering. And obviously a ton of gas coming in. Obviously, this army can't do anything. You cannot attack with this army, but I feel like HyuN has got himself into this position where his macro is going to be fearsome. I do love that Flash has added in an irradiate, and I think he should make a couple more vessels, and I think this should be a switch over into siege tanks heavily. Now, does he want to go into some vultures? I'm not entirely sure. I have seen, there's this one style that I attribute to fantasy where you actually skip vultures completely and you start spending more money on missile turrets. I don't know if that's something that Flash thinks is a good idea or not. Obviously, he's making some missile turrets over here defensively. But vultures vultures are very good, but as you get to really high supplies, they don't really scale that well, and they don't really help out against like queen transfers. You know, or not transfers, but transitions rather. And you can see the queen transition is occurring right now. Going ahead and getting into those queens, getting into the spawn broodling upgrade. So as the queens pop out, we have about 2 minutes after that until broodling is ready. So if you look at this clock right now, let's call it 15:15, okay? Something like that, 15 minutes, 15 seconds. We're going to have a bunch of broodlings ready to start slaying the siege tanks. So that's something important to kind of keep track of here, because that's where the game can really flip on its head. Now, a huge mass of Hydras over here. Both sides very close to maxing out. You know, we've had a little bit of the Mutas, like, harassing a little bit of the Goliaths, killing some Mutas, but not that much as far as engagements go. Now, it looks like this attack trying to go down the ramp. Ooh, I don't know. He actually turns around. The vessel, does he actually have a radiate? Well, he gets that picked off before he can cast it. I think he did have a radiate, but like just did not cast in time. The mass missile turret's doing a good job there against those Mutalisks, and he's actually slaying these Hydras, which do already have their +2 attack, but the 1/1 with siege tanks going to be plenty here. Getting down here and starting to target down some of these buildings here with those Hydralisks. Of course, they kill buildings very, very quickly, but the amount of Goliaths is completely absurd. The Muta's flying on top of them since they do have that +2 carapace right now. +2 attack is on the way for these Goliaths. They don't have it yet, but plenty of them to knock out all the Mutalisks. Plenty. Okay, so where are we at? Similar worker count, more supply here for Flash. He did wipe the entire army, but we're within 30 seconds, we should have enough energy. Yep, on point, just about, right? It's at 150 that they can do broodling. So the first batch of 8 queens is going to be able to hit those broodlings pretty darn soon here. And that's actually a very important moment, right? Because Flash is moving out. He's going to want to siege up this area. But like 8 broodlings will kill every single tank that's here, which is huge. You kill every single tank that's here. It's not that he's necessarily going to hit all of them, but if you do kill all the tanks that are here, you're not really going to break through this. So starting to siege up, you can see the queens kind of getting into position. They still have a little bit longer, just a little bit longer here. 5-6 seconds. It's about a minute for 50 energy, like minute in-game time for 50 energy. Just so, you know, so everything's kind of like an approximation. Here we go. And he has those broodlings ready. Some drones have fallen, but not that many as of yet. The queen's coming down, getting a couple broodlings so far. The Hydra's trying to engage on these Goliaths, but the siege tank's dealing a lot of damage. Right now, a huge flank coming down here from HyuN. Oh my god, what a crazy battle that we have going on, and HyuN will surround the entire army and kill it off. Now, he lost some of his drones, he lost a lot of Hydras, but he did get a fair amount of broodlings off. Is Flash actually going to be able to field the right-sized army? He's taken a 4th base during all this. A 5th and a 6th base has been taken by HyuN, but not really droned up at the moment. The broodlings even coming down to fight. Flash getting set up. He does have 2-1, hasn't started more upgrades, whereas right now 2-1 for HyuN, and he did start more upgrades in there as well. Okay, starting to come in. He, you know, this is a funny thing. If you could maybe target this and infest, that could be a very good move. Just to throw that out there, like, Infest gets the command center when it's a little bit above half health. I don't actually know the exact number, but, like, you can actually snipe a command center really quickly if you do that type of move. HyuN's macro looking a little bit too good, and you can kind of see it didn't feel like Flash really made any big mistakes, but HyuN had enough units that Flash never felt like he could do a timing attack, and you see the GG. There it is. HyuN just kind of out-macros Flash's mech there after command center first. I think if HyuN had, for instance, not made 4 sunks here and here, I think there could have been an attack from Flash, but he had to get into the tanks, which meant he had to get his 3rd base going. Then the queens were ready. If the queens hadn't come, right, if those queens hadn't broodlinged all these tanks, 100% Flash breaks everything here. Like, the flank that comes in doesn't get him or anything. So, it's of huge importance, the queens with broodling in this type of scenario. And really, this is why mech doesn't work right now, right? Like, Flash is going mech some. It's mostly mech transitions, which is a different thing. But mech in general is kind of slow to move out, and you can see the power of broodlings. So, I don't know. Maybe Flash will solve this. Maybe he won't. But that game was beautiful from HyuN. Just completely destroys. Okay. There you have it, a Flash mech game. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.